Well, hello everyone. Welcome to podcast 88 at the round table. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Rachel. And for those math whizzes, that is a 7.
Yes, it is a 7. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I was just like, oh, it's a lot of 8s. And it is a lot of 8 because it's podcast 88, but together added, you're right. That's a 7.
Uh-huh. Yeah, now you can't pick and choose what numbers you reduce down just because you like
No,
88.
no. And but I
I
do but I do like the topic that we have today
would.
is about channeling, and I like that we're in a 7 podcast because this is spiritual expansion, it's spiritual knowledge. This is some good stuff. It's very appropriate.
Right, I agree totally. It's
Mhm.
all good. It's
It's
all good in the
it's
neighborhood, right?
it's all good,
It's
baby.
all
It's all
good.
good.
Hmm.
Okay, so I've been asking Rachel a ton of questions about channeling because I did not think what I did was channeling.
Hmm.
I didn't. I didn't think, I always thought that what I was doing was just reading and even seeing, I guess, some of the ghosts and things, and even okay, so last Thursday night when we did our Spirit Realm Network show, we went to the cemetery in Villa Rica,
Hmm.
Hill Hill
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest
Hmm.
Hillcrest Cemetery. So we went there, and I I got way more information than I planned. I did
Hmm.
not think that was channeling.
Hmm.
Like at the time or even now, I did not consider that channeling.
Hmm. Well, and see, you and I were talking about it before, and these are all just my opinions, okay? So,
Okay.
America has only been around since 1776. So, our country is fairly new. So, my opinion is what we see on social media, what we see on the internet, we're kind of limited. I mean, I know we can Google things in England, but I'm just saying for like our everyday thing, because I know there was a big spiritual movement back in the early 1900s, but there really hasn't been a lot of channelers in the beginning to create a history for like lineages. So like whenever you go to England and other countries, this has been
Ireland.
around. Yeah, Ireland. There are foundations and schools that have not necessarily lineage, but they have a history of channelers. So it's almost like there's that documented things and or like a just documented more than what we have here. And so whenever I was starting to put my little feelers out there with channeling, because I was having some crazy things coming on, I immediately went and I started Googling symptoms, you know, and you know what? There's not really a whole lot of symptoms for moving your fingers crazy and doing clicks and pops. But if you go on YouTube, there's a whole lot of people doing light language, which is basically channeled information. But what I'm doing is a little bit different. So, this set me out on this journey, and I'm finally taking a trance channeling class. And the cool thing is about this class, it's not to me so much about channeling. It is giving because I had some little weird nuances that I have had for the past 4 or 5 years,
Oh,
and she is giving them names.
names to it.
And I'm like,
Yes.
perfect. Because, I mean, and it's not that I need the names because that's all about labels, but would do whenever I want to talk to you, I want to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. You're like, what? And I'm like, I know, it's instead of like, instead of saying, hey, I went outside, got in this vehicle, it's got 4 tires, and it's so weird. You put gas in it and you crank, and then you start it and it goes, you'll be like, a vehicle? I'm like, yeah, a vehicle. So it'd just be so much easier to always say, oh, I got in the vehicle and went somewhere. So that's what I was struggling with is
It's
for labels and all that.
But the thing is, I don't think I understand how everybody's saying, don't label it, don't whatever.
Hmm.
But sometimes you need to give it a name. I
Right.
mean, even if it's shit that you make up, like if I make a cake recipe, you know, and I've gotten real, over the
Mm-hmm.
years, I've gotten real creative in the kitchen. And so if I make a cake recipe, I need to give that shit a name. I can't just be like, the one that's kind of caramel flavored, but it has a little bit of berry behind it too. You know
Right.
what I'm talking about? So instead, I give it a name because that helps identify it to me. And I
Right.
think giving something an identity is very helpful. What I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't realize is that I never thought of myself as channeling, and I never thought about that. I just thought that I was like reading a situation. I thought that I
Yeah.
was just looking at stuff, but the energy that comes in, the energy that comes in, I was like, I don't understand why I'm feeling all of that energy. And then I heard your voice in my head being like, that's the channel.
Mm-hmm.
You're channeling. And I was like, what? No,
Mm-hmm.
no. I mean, but I I wonder, because we've talked about this before, about like the reason why empaths and the reason why anybody that's psychic doesn't need to open up,
Mm-hmm.
like, or hang on just a second. But I think the reason why we were talking about sex, or the reason why we said, opening yourself up during sex, is because that is opening up a channel.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, because you have like physical reactions, and I didn't realize that a lot of people that channel have physical reactions like you do. Like, I apparently have, but I mean, I've seen like your videos. I've seen where you've been, maneuvering through this, and I've been like, oh my gosh, that's impressive. Like,
Yeah.
that is, I mean, like bringing in that, that different language even.
Yeah. Well, so see, that's the thing. Everybody channels. Everybody channels on some level. If you're an author and you're writing a book, if you're a poet writing poetry, it could be a scientist. There's no doubt that they're tapping in. And so they could, you can be tapping into one person, or you could be tapping into a collective. And right now, that is really popular, where people are channeling aliens, where they are channeling councils or groups. And that that's cool. So, you might not know exactly who it's coming from. So this to me all goes back to, my opinion is, you don't want to start off being a channeler off the bat, because whenever you start off being like a medium or doing psychic, just being psychic, then you start learning about spirits, about spirit guides, and just knowing. Because the thing is, I do believe, and I'm not trying to put fear in anybody, but I do believe that there can be groups or entities portraying to be a higher being or a higher vibration. And I do believe that they can give us distorted messages. So I can say, if I'm talking to you or talking to somebody and they're asking me, I'm like, well, keep your vibration high, and then you attract and levitate towards those beings.
Right.
So if you don't know anything about that, you'll be like, well, I'm okay, So I like to, I would, if I could give advice, just say, like, you have ground rules and you have a point of reference, and then whenever you start channeling. So, and I
Is it like
mean,
protection?
it could be like protection, but it's just, so whenever I first started, I really started, I guess, doing this whenever I would go into deep meditation. And I was nervous and I was scared, because I was having, like you said, I showed you these videos. I was having all these things and I was nervous about it, because I didn't know if it was possession or what it was, because that's what I was told my whole life. So I was like, okay, team, if I'm going to do this, I only want to talk to beings that are this or higher. So there for a while, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so enlightened. I spoke to this person and I spoke to that person. And then I was like, no, you idiot. You set your intention to talk to those beings or higher. So then I was like, what? It's that easy? And I didn't do it out of ego to channel those beings. I done it out of fear because I didn't think, Jesus was going to show up and start talking, or this person was, I just knew that if somebody showed up or if somebody started talking in my head, I wanted to know that they wasn't going to, say, rob the bank, Rachel, rob the bank, So the fact that anybody can do this by setting their attention is so incredibly cool to me.
So how are you helping me? Hang on. Okay, so how would you tell somebody that they're channeling? Because I, honest to God, did not think that I was channeling Rachel. I did
Yeah.
not realize like me feeling that energy, or even like you and I have had some communications with some entities from other
Mm-hmm.
dimensions, and I didn't call them. I didn't think I was calling them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, but I how how do you say this is what you're like, this is channeling? And I do
I don't
feel
think
like,
you do. I don't think you do unless you really know that person. And I know you and I are different, but even
yeah,
with you, I would probably do baby steps because I just know,
that I'm
because I mean, there is
scared.
such a stigmatism with it. And I mean, it can be as subtle as channeling the Palladians. Or channeling can also be, there was a time that Todd and I was driving to St. Simon's and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and he was probably trying to stay awake. So he was asking me all these questions about reincarnation and all these different things. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, what was that? And I mean, so whatever I was saying to him, because he asked me a question and I gave him an answer. And I was like, I did not, that what the answer I gave him was not in my belief system. I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, I was in awe, so I knew, because so that's one of the things I have. I don't like to read, I love to read books. I don't like to really search for a whole lot of information. That way, whenever I know it comes to me that it's true and it hasn't been biased because I read it. So whenever that came to me, I knew that it wasn't anything I had learned before. Like I knew that I hadn't read it in a magazine or, on Facebook, and I was just regurgitating it. And so I was in awe, so that is channeled information. So it can be something as subtle as that.
Wow.
So everybody channels. Um, and I guess there comes to a progression. So again, it would all go back to, um, it wouldn't be any different than saying, be mindful of who you're channeling, of who you allow these voices in your head. Wouldn't be any different than be mindful of your thoughts, whether you're saying, I can't do this today, I can't do that today, because I also think that that is a form of channeling, because I do believe that there are groups and entities that are out there putting negative thoughts in people's heads. And
So
I don't like saying that because people's like, well, she said this, but I do believe that there are outside influences and they're just
but I
subtly
don't think
dropping them
you're
in.
wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't. And there's a couple of stories like in here that I want to talk about, but I also want to ask you about our friend Karen, who is a
Mm-hmm.
trance medium. Is
Yeah,
that
she's a
the
trance
correct?
medium. Mm-hmm.
And she's quite good, let me tell you.
Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather, the retired Baptist minister, I've not seen him once he transitioned, which is not unusual because I usually don't get a lot of people that are in a recent, and I say recent, saying that it's been, like maybe in the last 5 years or so. I don't usually get those people. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm just a lazy psychic. Uh, um,
Mm-hmm.
but but he came through to her, and I knew him. Like the
Mm-hmm.
way that she was talking, the way that she was just, and I was like, I know who that is. He never said his name. He never said,
Mm-hmm.
I went, I know who that is. I was surprised. I was real surprised because the man was ultra religious and ultra conservative. I mean, Baptist minister,
Yeah.
you know, and so she is really good, and we can share her information if she's okay with that. We can share her information on our page, and even in the description on this podcast if you're interested in reaching out to her. And you know what, it would, you're right, it would be a good idea to have her on the show too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so basically, the word with trance, that is just a different word in it, just like why we say exercise. So exercise could be, like aerobic exercise, cardio exercise. They're just different levels. So basically, whenever you're channeling, especially trance channeling, basically your state of consciousness changes. It's an altered state of consciousness, and each brainwave pattern is, I'm pretty sure, is a different level of channeling, because there's some people who go in and, like, basically they're providing a body, spirit comes in and can see and talk and communicate and use their body, and then the person who is being the channeler won't know. But there's also people who channel, they are aware of the conversations. They are aware that somebody is within them, speaking through them. So there's different levels. And see, like Karen, the cool thing about her is she allows spirit to come in and, for lack of better words, like use her eyes. So it's almost like they can see. And so this is the other thing. I know I've had conversations before about people on the other side having emotions, because I don't know if having emotions is just a human thing. And so whenever you're on the other side, it's like it just is. There are no emotions. So I'm wondering with Karen, when people come in to her, since they're in a human body, if they're able to have those emotions or experience those emotions, because it's got to be more than just seeing through her eyes.
I tried that,
Mm-hmm.
and it scared the shit out of me. I'm not even gonna lie. I tried that with Teresa Wilson. I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to let her mom come in. She wanted to touch her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't really know how to do this. She came in, and the most that I apparently would allow her was to use my finger. And
Mm-hmm.
she touched Teresa's hand because I was holding Teresa's hand. And she touched her finger. She went through my finger and she touched Teresa. My finger went numb.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't really like this. Like, I don't. I mean, it's hard being any of these things, a medium, a channeler, or anything like that when you're a control freak.
Yeah.
I mean, and I try really hard not to be a control freak, but see, again, I'm trying to, force something. But it scared me because my finger went numb.
Yeah. Well, and so I don't want to say what's scary, but what the cool thing is so we know whenever we have new experiences happen to us, we're like, oh, that's that. So then we're able to use that point of reference, just like what you're talking about with the finger being numb. Or even, I know you chatter whenever you're close to energy or a high energy. Well, I do the same thing, but now that I know what that is, it like changes. It's like, oh, dang it. So as soon as I learn this point of reference to say, oh, when spirit's within 6 foot of me, then this is how I feel. So I mean, so it's so crazy, but it's just like I have learned that even whenever we're doing the show and my lips move all crazy, which drives me crazy, and then I chew gum, that is a form of channeling. Like, so they're trying to come through. And I mean, I have been, I have been like, if I was laying down going to sleep, I have different body sensations. Like I was like, okay, I'm fixing to leave and go travel, or I'm fixing to do this, or so I can just be sitting and I'll feel like a pull. And I'm like, well, I just kind of assume that I'm being pulled over here to a spirit because I can't see spirits. I just know. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm just being pulled over here because of this. No, it's almost like body dysmorphia where I'm being pulled out. So I don't know if it's, and that is my description. Nothing is literally pulling my soul from my body. It's just an energy. It's just an energy awareness. So don't people don't be freaky about
Well,
that.
but see, I'm telling you, I think that it's so much more powerful
Mm-hmm.
that you are clairsentient. And I've said this so many thousands of times that I think clairsentient is so much more important than clairaudient and clairvoyant, because if you can't feel it, it's hard to see or hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I ignore the clairsentient because I've gotten lazy and I expect to see and hear, but I ignore the clairsentient, which is
Mm-hmm.
so huge. And walking into a place and going, oh, I don't feel good about this, and
Mm-hmm.
then looking around and going, okay, what's happening? But me, I just plow right into some place and go, oh hey, and it'll take me, a little bit of time of being there, and sometimes it's a little late in the game, before I go, oh shit, I don't need to be here. Get out.
Yeah.
I mean, but so I I I was talking to Glenda the other day, Glenda Emery, and I I, I got this just weird message, and you were like, that's a channeled message. That
Mm-hmm.
people of power
Mm-hmm.
are like being attacked,
Mm-hmm.
but there's or powerful people, but there's
Mm-hmm.
more to it, because I didn't tell you all of it. It was like it was almost like it's easy for people of lower vibration and lower energies to send out energy to attack these powerful people these days, because there's so much that's already trying to come at them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also fascinating to me, because I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, see, I have had that thought for a while now, and it sounds crazy because I don't like telling people. Imagine that.
it is not crazy.
Yeah. Whenever I say, especially whenever we look where we are now, and if there's capabilities, which there are, to look to the future or just see what happens. In my opinion, it would be so easy to look to the future, see where there are signature waves of something great or something good or something productive. So all they have to do is these are my terms, trace it back to where we are now and cause disruptances, cause distractions to kind of like knock them off their path. That way, maybe later on, that signature or that energy wave isn't so productive. That light isn't so bright. No, I've been saying that for a while. Yeah.
Holy shit. I
Hmm.
I think that I think this is dead on.
Yeah, but I'm aware of that. That doesn't bother me because that is not my awareness, and um, it's like I'm not saying I'm a big productive person. I'm calling these huge signature waves, but it's just not. I'm not literally going, oh my gosh, I wonder if somebody is projecting themselves 20 years into the future to see what I'm doing. That way they can come back and cause this car to hit my car. Like I don't think that way. I just know that there's a possibility.
So it would be like somebody, maybe the reason why we've seen assassinations happen,
Hmm.
or we've seen people getting taken out,
Hmm.
because like somebody has gone in and sort of gone, oh, let's see, what's going to happen in the future, and they see something great happening or whatever, so they decide to take out key people like
Yeah.
JFK or
Yeah.
Martin Luther King. I mean, and they just go, okay, we're gonna like work with that. And it's interesting to me how they either do it through like some sort of assassination or they do it through a natural disaster.
Yeah, or they could just do it through a distraction, several distractions, which would, like if somebody was going into school, they had an active business, everything was going good, and just, 2 or 3 disruptions could put them into depression and just knock them off their path for a little bit, derail them for a little bit. It could be something that simple. But the good news is, I do believe that channels, or the information that we're getting from channels, that is a collective capacity. So, so if they go to knock somebody, Joe Blow off, they'll be like, it's okay because this message is also going to this people and it's going to that people. Which that's my other point. I don't think one person holds the key to stuff. And so we can all get messages. And this is like with the channelers who channel Ra. So Ra, that's the Egyptian person, but it's also as a collective. There's been different people channel Ra, and it's the same way with Seth. People channel Seth. And so you can tap into that. It's just being in a place in your mind knowing that you know who you for sure are channeling, and you're doing it for the right reasons, I guess. So
this is so, I love this.
yeah.
I absolutely, this is such a fascinating subject for me. Because I honestly, I was always afraid of that. And I was like, I mean, you know how I am. I'm afraid of all this stuff until I start doing it. And then even when we were in the cemetery the other night, like I was hesitant and I was dragging my feet. But once we got there, I was like, okay, we're good. We're good. Like a couple of ghosts. And then all this other shit started coming in. And I was like, wait, what? What was really fascinating to me is those that I guess he's like Native American man. But I kept trying to focus on what he was telling me, and it was almost like he just kept saying the world looks so different than it does now. When he was talking to me about what his people did, that they just went into meditation, like the whole tribe went into meditation together, and then just poof.
Yeah, spontaneous combustion. Yeah. So that's like more of a Tibetan type tradition. So that's probably the reason why they had that Asian type look to them. So, but yeah. It's like a monk thing. Monks can do that.
But they didn't. It was just really, really interesting, like how I kept going, well, okay, because they were looking for you. And I was like, how do you know her? And then he kept showing me the brown lady that I see with you. And I think he was an animal with her, like a lot. And I think that's part of the connection.
Well, see, my thing is, if they're looking for me, I'm either here at the office, Dollar General, or Taco Bell. I mean, I don't go far. My circle is not wide. This is where I'm at. Hello?
No, but
I mean,
it was like I felt like you had called him in, whether you were at Taco Bell or Dollar General.
Oh, Jesus, this is some good tacos. Or like, Jesus, please get me out of this Dollar General without killing somebody.
And well, there's so many Dollar Generals in the area. Like you said, they keep popping up on every corner.
I know.
You can just be like, well, this one drives me crazy. I'm going to go to the one across the street.
Or I'm going to go to the new Dollar General. And that's bad that like we know where the new, or, the good Dollar General is like, what? You have different labels again for, But getting back to Chandler or whatever, the most to me, the one that sticks out right now is Abraham Hicks, by Esther Hicks. So that will show you a good that gives you a good idea of she's walking, she's talking to people, she's not totally like just flipped out in a chair and can't move, and then there's like this, today we're all gonna die. And then, Edgar Casey, he was another, big channel. But there is a documentary, and I know I followed on Facebook, but his name is Kevin Moore, that he has a show called They Call Us Chandlers. Chandlers. So he does basically a little show about each one that talks about their history, how they got involved, what type of channeling that they do, and maybe their background. Because I do think, just like whenever you were talking about Karen, even though whenever people are on the other side, I think they still have ideas about stuff or belief systems or programming, or like they're still working through that.
Yes.
So Karen doesn't look very, I'm not being mean, Karen. I'm not saying you're not magical, but she doesn't look very magical. She doesn't look very woo woo. She looks
like a soccer mom.
Yeah, and I mean, she looks very approachable. So I could imagine that somebody who would be very conservative would gravitate towards Karen, opposed to somebody that would, that that is wearing, I don't know.
Costume.
Yeah, a costume, but yeah, playing the part, because a lot of people want people that are playing the part. So yeah.
Yeah, they want to go to somebody who has a
Mm-hmm.
turban and a crystal ball,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, looks like a gypsy or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or looks like the stereotypical gypsy.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because the message is going to be better, which it could be, but I'm just saying it's just like with us. We all have our program. So if I go to a doctor, I don't want somebody who looks like they're 19. I'm like, what could you possibly know? But if I wanted to go and get something replaced on my phone, I don't want to go to like a 90-year-old man and be like, what could you possibly do? So, these are things that we have in our mind about you can't. So it'd be the same way, I would imagine, with ghosts. Would be like, no, I'm not doing that. So,
Oh
and
my gosh.
okay, so like the other thing with channeling, it could be automatic writing. It can be painting. There are so many things. There's just different levels of it. I just kind of think the better you are with quieting your mind, again, that's vibration stuff. I just think, so like if you want to practice channeling, then I think you should practice your meditation, because then
Okay.
you're in that space to be the witness, like, okay, or the observer, that whole jab, or that whole, I don't
Okay.
want to say jab, that's not a good word, that whole, conversation, like, who is that? The asking without getting derailed and going on to left field, and then, and stuff like that.
Well,
So,
that's really fascinating to me, because you think about the people like famous artists like the Impressionists, or even during the Renaissance. Like
mm-hmm,
my favorite artist, Botticelli.
mm-hmm,
And I think that I mean I think that he was so talented. That information had to be channeled. Like,
yeah,
that was not, and it's like when we were talking about the cards from Sue Lyon, like
mm-hmm,
her
mm-hmm,
spirit animal cards. That information is channeled. And you don't really think about that nowadays as like an artist or somebody who's gifted in that way of being channeled, and seeing that just like incredible talent.
mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, nowadays, whenever you listen to The Voice or any kind of music thing like that, and somebody does a cover of a song, be like, oh my gosh, you literally channeled Prince. maybe I'm not saying they are, but if people wanted to practice this, if sing karaoke and, sing one of your favorite songs, and if they happen to be passed, say, you know what? All right, such and such, let's just see how it sounds and see if if you have like a different energy. And it was like the other day I was doing some healing work from somebody, and like I was beating my drum, or before really I even started beating my drum, because I was trying to do that straight through. I was up moving, and I was, tapping my hands on my legs, and I was like, okay, so who is this? Why am I doing this? So then it doesn't matter, but of course we all want to know. And I'm like, so is this the person that because I was thinking about them sending him the energy work. Was I connecting to them? Was I connecting to somebody that was excited and they're like, come on, like I didn't know what it was, but it doesn't matter. I was just got into it and went. So, but so I the the cool part is there really is no detailed map or a checklist to say this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, because I also think it comes back to where we are with our other gifts. Just like if you're an empath, or if you feel emotions of the people, or if whatever you naturally do, I think that would probably be enhanced when you're channeling. So I just don't think that there is a standard checklist.
That's a good point, because not all empaths are psychics or healers. Not all healers are empaths or psychic. I mean, there's not a checklist. There's not. I think it's just, like, you're here and you're going, okay, I'm accepting these gifts, or I'm not accepting these gifts. And that's something I've been learning about with astrology, is looking at the lines on the chart to see, like, what are challenges in your life and what are gifts, and seeing how they roll with each other. And you could have like all gifts and one big challenge that, like you were saying, could keep you from accessing all of those gifts. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I hope we have a lot of questions about this show.
Maybe that's what we can do. Do a whole show on Q&A.
That would be great. That would be great. I think that we have enough stuff here just to talk about like a couple of more shows. So this could be channeling part 1. And if you guys have questions, please hit us up at metaphysicalroundtable@gmail.com. You can also check out all of our social media: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Of course, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe on our YouTube page. You can find our podcast if you are just listening to us. You can listen to us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes for free. And of course, you can watch our lovely faces on YouTube. You can watch Rachel's show on Monday nights at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time on the Spirit Realm Network. It is called Answers from Beyond.
Dun dun dun.
We have a show. It is dramatic. It's like she does live readings for everybody in the chat, or as many as she can get to in the chat. It's awesome. And then we have a show together on Thursday nights, also on the Spirit Realm Network. It's obviously Metaphysical Roundtable. We just do a lot of interesting things on there. It's basically a metaphysical talk show where we showcase different tools, different cards, like showing how to read them. And sometimes you'll see us in a cemetery.
Right. Or a Taco Bell or a Dollar General. Who really knows? No limits.
Maybe we should do Taco Bell. Like, I could use a chalupa.
I know. Well, I know it is kind of random, but that's what I like about it. So.
Oh, and I have a show called Metaphysical Practices. Yeah, sorry. I have a note to remind myself to
Mm-hmm.
talk about all these things. I have a show called Metaphysical Practices that is on the Friday night before the new moon and the Friday night before the full moon, where we're actually like doing some manifesting and some spell work, and we're doing all kinds of stuff. A lot of rituals. So again, we're tuning into different things, but I like to work with the moon, so that's where we're
Uh-huh.
doing it.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like you need to take metaphysical practices to this cemetery.
Oh, dude. Like, that's a
Yeah.
lot of energy. Doing spell work with that much energy, I'd be like, the fuck? Oh my
We're
gosh.
gonna
Yeah.
gather these pine cones and put them in, and I'm just gathering pine cones. That's all I'm doing. Just pine cones. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put them in my
Well,
basket.
well, we'll reach out to Karen and see if we can have her as a guest on the show. There's a couple other people that we're looking at that Rachel and I have been like, they would be very interesting guests on the show. So if there's something that you want to hear us talk about, or if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to us. And we do check the email, but only once a day. So we will get back to you as soon as we can. But until we see you for podcast 89, get out there and make your magic.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to say